My name is Foxy and welcome to another one of my videos. Today is our Saturday. Exciting. Yes, I love Saturdays. Ooh. And today I'm talking about The Time Traveler's Wife from book to movie adaptation. And this is going to be part of a new series called Saturday Stories to Screen. Stories to Screen. So that will be like any movies and TV shows that have been adapted from a book. And I'm going to talk about the 5 things that I liked that they changed from the adaptation and 5 things I didn't like. I'm going to start with the negatives so that we can end on a positive note, and this is purely my opinion, and I'd love to hear your guys' opinion on what you guys thought about the adaptation below. But this is my opinion, so don't get too upset if you don't agree with this, because I'm just putting it out there, you know. Number 5. In the book, Henry goes back in time and he meets up with Claire when she's a child. When she's younger, and she's 18, and Henry and Claire decide, now that Claire's 18 and she's legally an adult, that they will consummate their love. I'm just gonna say it like that. Then, once Henry goes back to the future and sees Claire, they've been in an argument, and Claire and Henry talk about that moment together, and they kind of rekindle their love and realise that they can get out of this problem and this situation because they are so deeply in love, and it's so nice and sweet. In the movie, they took out that scene and instead put in when Henry goes back and kisses Claire because he's angry with her when she's younger because they had an argument in the future. It's really confusing. But when Henry goes back to the future and talks with Claire, they end up having another argument instead of getting over it. Like, it just kind of ruined it and made it so sad and depressing. And I wanted some lovely romance. I didn't want that. Number 4. In the books, Henry and Claire are house shopping. Oh, that's a thing, house shopping. And Henry already knows what their future house is going to look like because he has travelled in the future and seen it. And so he runs out to the backyard because that's the only part of the house that he's seen is the backyard. He runs out to the backyard in every house and he's like, no, this isn't the one, this isn't the one, blah blah. Claire gets upset with him and says, I want to keep on house hunting because it just ruins the experience for her. She finds the house after Henry explains what it looks like to him. And after a couple months later, Claire finds it, and it's Claire who makes the discovery of the house and they move in. In the movie, it just kind of shows Henry running out all the time and doesn't explain why he's running out all the time and that he knows what the house looks like. I mean, you can kind of pick it up, but it's not that clear. And then he finds it and he's like, yeah, this is the one. Let's just buy it now. And I know it didn't give Claire the control that she has in the book to make the decision herself and feel like she's approved of this house instead of Henry being like, this is the one, we're taking it, no questions asked, just do it. Number 3. In the books, Henry is trying to convince his doctor, the genetics guy, to believe him that he's a time traveller. In doing this, he travels to the future, finds out what the doctor's child is, who is a Down syndrome kid, and his name and other details about him. Puts it in an envelope, gives it to the doctor and says, open it after your child is born. The doctor opens it, it's all true, and he believes Henry. In the movie, the doctor puts Henry under an examination, like a head scan, to find out what's going on with his brain and his genetics, and Henry disappears because he time travels. And then the doctor's like, he is a time traveller, which I don't find as interesting or, I don't know, as fascinating as going ahead in time and, showing what your kid is and being totally blown away. Number 2. In the book, Henry and Claire get married, and after they get married, it's, quite an eventful day. There's a lot of dramas that happens. Afterwards, they both fall asleep and they're like, phew, it's all fine. In the books, Henry and Claire are jumping on the bed, having a lot of fun, which I enjoyed, and then Henry disappears because he time travels, and it just kind of bugged me because it was kind of annoying. They just had this horrible day, and then I know it's realistic, that Henry wouldn't stay around when you needed him, but to go right then, it just seems so sad. My number 1 criticism was, in the books, Claire and Gomez have a very complicated relationship, as they did sleep together at a time in between when Claire has a huge gap where she didn't see Henry for a couple of years. And Henry says to her, before this gap, you can go and sleep with someone else if you want. So she does, and she sleeps with Gomez, who is currently dating her best friend. So she cheats on Henry technically, even though he gave her permission, and Gomez cheats on Claire's friend, who Gomez does end up marrying and having kids with. And then there's a complicated scenario that happens in the future as well that indicates that Gomez has always had feelings for Claire, but Claire's never had feelings for Gomez, and it's very complicated and it makes their relationship kind of quite stressful. But Henry never does anything about it, which I kind of liked, was he trusts Claire and he knows Claire loves him so much and stuff, but it's just like this weird relationship that they have, and they didn't address it. They kind of did, but not really in the movies. I wanted them to just go into more detail and kind of explain what was going on. Like, what's the deal with Gomez and Claire? Okay, now onto the positive notes. These are 5 changes that I did like from the books to the movie. Number 5. After Claire and Henry get married in the books, they go to sleep, and because they're so exhausted and it's quite a stressful day, in the movies they like jump on the bed and have a lot of fun, and even though Henry does end up disappearing, I did like it. I liked that they had a little bit of fun, because it was like, yeah, you had a horrible stress, and even though it did work out fine, you know, you just want to have a little bit of fun. Number 4. In the books, Henry loses his feet because of frostbite, because he time travels and he can't get away from the cold. He ends up somewhere cold, and because when Henry time travels he doesn't bring his clothes or anything with him, he is not covered. He can't get any clothes, he can't steal them, he can't find any, and he ends up losing his feet because of this really bad frostbite. In the books he gets so depressed over this, and it is so sad to read about. But in the movie they didn't have that. They like skimmed over it. It just went to him in a wheelchair. In the book, even in the movie, I don't even know if he lost his leg or he just got a really bad injury. But he ends up in a wheelchair, and they seem to be going on with life, and it's all like fine and dandy. Even though now that he doesn't have feet, he can't run away, which is a huge problem because he'll sometimes time travel into a tricky situation and he needs to get out of it. Number 3. In the books they don't really explain this, but Claire has a lot of miscarriages because they think it's a lot to do with Henry's genetic genes and they're not compatible with her womb. Kind of weird stuff like that. I feel like they didn't really explain it. In the movies, the reason why Claire miscarriages all the time is because her baby has the time traveling genes and is time traveling out of the womb, which I just thought was a really fascinating take on it, that yeah, that could totally happen. At the same time, you know, time traveling is not real in that kind of aspect, but it could happen that this time traveling gene means that they can't fully develop because they keep time traveling too early, because they can't control the time traveling because they're a small child and you can never control the time traveling. Number 2, in the books, Henry and Claire are having an argument in the future, and Henry travels back in time to see Claire when she's young. I think she's about 17, 16, and Henry gets kind of annoyed with her because he's having this argument with her in the future and he just wants to be there and finish this argument, and he ends up kissing Claire quite passionately, and it's Claire's first kiss that she's ever had. And I like it how in the movies this is the same scenario that happens, but Claire gets really upset about it and she's like, that wasn't very nice and stuff, and she reacts quite realistically to it. And I don't know, I just liked how they did it, because I was like, yeah, that's what it would be like. You would be in the middle of a situation which you wanted to solve right then and there, but then you get pulled away and you can't solve it and you end up taking it out on the same person, but it's not them yet. And the number 1 change that I liked was in the books, Henry and Claire are sitting on the couch and Henry's like, let's get married. And Claire's like, yep, okay, we'll do it. Wasn't very romantic. I feel like the rest of their relationship is just this huge romance. This whole book's a huge romance. And that to me kind of just let it down because I wanted the proper proposal thing. In the movies, they kind of got there for me. Henry slips on the ring when Claire is sleeping, and then she sees it, and then she says no to him, and then he's like, what? And then she's like, sorry, I just wanted to like see, you know, have some freedom and like use some of my own control. You know, seem like I have control over my life when I don't. And I really liked that aspect, and to me it seemed more romantic than how it was done in the books, and how it's like he slips it on and it seemed really cute and sweet in the movie. Overall, I thought this adaptation was alright. I feel like this is a book that's very difficult to adaptate because because it is future past, and it's hard to like show, especially with like features and stuff, which they did a good job of having like a beard and no beard and putting a bit of grey in and stuff for Henry. It jumped around quite a bit, which is how the book is, but I almost felt like they needed to put in how the book has. They have like the date. They have the date and stuff of when it is and how old the character is. And I feel like they needed that on the film. Like, it wouldn't have ruined the film. It would make it easier to understand, because I felt like as reading the book I understood everything. But I feel like I don't know how other people felt who hadn't read the book. Like, was it easy to understand? Was it really fast paced? Because I felt like it was just like bam, 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 bam. Like, the romance didn't work for me in the book. In the book it does, because I feel like there's a gradual growth. But you're seeing it all, whereas in the movie I feel like not. And it's quite a big book as well. So, I know it was alright adaptation, not the best. I don't know, but please comment below and tell me what you thought about the adaptation. If you've read the book or you hadn't read the book, just tell me what you thought about the adaptation. So yes, I will see you guys next time in another video. Bye!